Most families wait too long to take action after a wrongful death, and by the time they do, key evidence is gone. I've seen cases fall apart many times because they didn't pursue the claim early enough. They didn't take early steps and they weren't handled correctly. I'm Ted Spaulding. I'm a personal injury attorney here in Georgia, and I handle and help families walk through this type of process every day. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the 4 steps you absolutely need to take right now if you are dealing with a wrongful death claim to make sure you can win that case. So, I want to make sure you protect your case, you hold the right people accountable, and you fight for compensation for your family for what has happened in this wrongful death situation. Let's talk about the first step that you must absolutely do in a wrongful death claim in Georgia, and that is to protect and collect evidence. And I can't stress this enough. Evidence can vanish, memories fade, key details can get lost. Evidence can absolutely go away. In these cases, details matter tremendously. Imagine you've lost a loved one in a car accident on 285 in Atlanta, for example. Involved a Tesla vehicle, of all things. One of the first things you want to do, obviously, is ensure that a police report has been created. That is an independent investigation into what happened, who's at fault. It can gather witnesses. It can gather video evidence. Oftentimes, video on highways, especially interstates like 285, they're only there for a brief moment, but police can access those cams to get a picture of the wreck. Can't do that days and weeks later. Most importantly, Teslas, for example, they have cameras all around the vehicle that record, and you can pull that video to get the impact before, during, and after of the wreck, but it's not going to be there forever. You got to know to do these things, again, to preserve, meaning protect, and collect the evidence that you may need. Video camera is real important. So let's say you've got a family member that fell at an apartment complex in Macon. Cameras would be real important. You've got to take pictures early on of the hazard shortly after it happened so you can prove what was the hazard that caused your family member's fall and death. You might have to take measurements early on by having an expert go out before anything is fixed. That is real important in those cases because the property management naturally is going to go out there and fix it as quickly as possible, not necessarily to destroy evidence, but because they don't want someone else to fall on it. Well, you got to make sure it's preserved. Do not do that. Block it off. We got to take a look at it. We might have to get an expert involved. Imagine it could be a medical malpractice case in Savannah. You're going to want to get medical records, not just the records of the procedure that caused the death, but the records before to see what led up to it. What things were they doing? Those are real document heavy type situations. You want to make sure that you not only preserve those records, but you collect them. So evidence is massively, massively important in these cases. So to recap, the first step, and maybe the most important step in a Georgia wrongful death claim, is to act quickly to document what was wrong, document what happened, and collect the evidence that's out there early and often before it goes away. Talk to witnesses. Their memories may fade. You want to get an affidavit from them, get them on video, whatever you got to do to preserve what they remember seeing, hearing, all of that kind of stuff. Step 2 is knowing who has legal standing to pursue the wrongful death claim. And stick with me, this gets a little bit complicated. And again, it's why it's oftentimes best to contact an attorney early when you have a potential wrongful death claim. Statutory rules on who has the claim and who does not. You do not want to have the wrong family member pursuing the claim. It will not go well. So how does it work? Well, it's first, is there a spouse? The spouse would have the claim. Now, here's where it gets complicated. Do they also have children? So if it's spouse and children, the spouse has the legal claim, meaning it is the party who is supposed to be pursuing the claim, but the spouse has to share the proceeds of the claim with the children. And it gets even more complicated because the spouse has a right to a third of the recovery, no matter how many children the deceased had. Then the children split the 2/3 remaining. So obviously not a big deal if you only have 2 children. That means it's a third, a third, a third. Third for the spouse, 2/3 to 2 kids, that's a third apiece. You got 10 kids, it's a third to spouse, and then the 10 kids are splitting the 2/3. So it's less of a recovery per child. Now, where it gets more complicated is when there is no spouse, then it's the children. Children equally have the right to pursue the claim, and you can't bar one child over the other and that sort of thing. Now, not all of them have to physically pursue it. One can pursue it on behalf of everybody, but you got to get them all involved. If there is no spouse and there's no children, then it's surviving parents. So you got to go down this path, and thankfully there's a statute that lays out in order who has the claim depending on who is surviving the family member. So again, before you do anything else, you've got to figure out who has the legal claim, who's the family member that is going to hire the attorney. So the attorney has the authority to be going out there and preserving evidence, getting with insurance companies, getting with at-fault parties. So it's real important to move quickly to determine who's the proper, in essence, spokesperson that is got the legal right to hire attorneys, to set up probate, to do all these things that need to be legally done, including pursuing your case, because you do not want that claim to be tossed out because the wrong family member pursued it, who did not have the legal right to pursue it. All right, this next step is a tough one. How do you put value on the life of your loved one? So remember, in the state of Georgia, a wrongful death claim is paid out in essence. Its value is the value of life of the deceased. And a key point to remember is it's the value of the life of the deceased to the deceased, not to you as a family member. So it's not, compensation should be because I lost my father and now I don't have that support system and my life is going to be worse because of it. No, it is father lost his life and the ability to be there for you and enjoy the fruits of your life and being a father and then a grandfather and his work life and his personal life, that's the value of the life. Now, it's broken down between loss of work in essence, so loss of income. That's one part of the value of the life of the deceased. And then it's the kind of pain and suffering part is the best way to maybe put it, is the value of his life to himself. And again, things he's missing out on, things he's not going to see and do and enjoy for X amount of years of his natural life. It's the combination of lost income that this person would have obtained through the rest of his working life and the loss of enjoyment of his life in essence for the remainder of his natural life. Those two things in combination is what makes that work and creates that value. So let me give you an example. I represented a family in Marietta, lost their mother in a car wreck. She was 42, she was a school teacher, and she was the main provider for her 2 children. So we worked with experts and we were able to show what she was earning with her past income statements, tax returns, those sorts of things, what Social Security she would have made later in life, what bonuses and raises she was going to get, because that's kind of structured as she continued to work and gain more years under her belt, and ultimately what her retirement plan would have meant once she hit 20 years and 25 years. And the experts calculated all of that to come up with that first component, which is her lost income for the rest of her life through retirement, being able to take care of her children and all these things that she wasn't able to do. That was just that part. Then you get the emotional pain and suffering part. One of the kids played baseball. She wasn't going to be able to see any more baseball games. She wasn't going to see her 2 children grow up, get married, have children, have careers, nurture them through life, have grandchildren, great-grandchildren, work in her enjoyment of being a school teacher, the things she loved to do. She loved to hike. She loved to go on vacations cross-country and overseas. She would never have another vacation. All of those things then equal the kind of pain and suffering part, the loss of enjoyment of life that she suffered. And those things combined make out her case. So these are all the different aspects. Again, there's also hard costs that you have to think about. There's hospital bills, there's funeral costs. I had one client, and I believe they were in Columbus, Georgia, and he survived for 5 days before he passes. So he had a massive medical bill for the hospital, a couple $100,000. They tried to save his life, tried to do everything they could. He was in intensive care. That is an item of damage. Now, there's a difference in wrongful death and estate claims and those sorts of things. I won't get into all of that here in this video, but that's also an item of damage in general in wrongful death claims and scenarios that you have to know about, these medical costs. The last step that we have, and this is a hard way to kind of figure, is you don't want to wait too long. Every wrongful death claim in Georgia has a strict deadline, which is called the statute of limitations. Here in Georgia, you generally have 2 years to bring a wrongful death lawsuit after a loved one passes. That clock starts ticking immediately upon the passing of your loved one. So there's no time to waste. It's not going to wait for you to gather evidence, for you to file probate, get all the paperwork together. It is going to start ticking most of the time at the exact moment of death, and it's typically 2 years. So there are a few exceptions, but they are very rare. So I always tell people, do not rely on them and assume that you're going to get additional time beyond that traditional 2 years. What are those? There's things like if there's a criminal case still proceeding, the statute will be what's called tolled, which means it'll stop and it won't start for the 2 years until after the criminal proceeding is over. And then there's also ones like if it's a minor, those sorts of things. But of course, in a death case, that may not necessarily apply. So you want to be careful. The courts are very, very strict on these deadlines. So you do not want to assume you've got more time. You want to assume the 2 years, and you want to be very, very diligent with it. You do not want to wait. I had a client in Athens who did just that, and it was horrible. They waited until, I believe, a week after the 2-year statute of limitations. Must have sparked in their minds. They reached out to me. Horrible situation. Definitely had a claim, but they waited. And when I asked them, what was going on? Why'd you wait? Because I was trying to find an exception. There was no criminal case. They said, well, we were waiting to probate the estate. There was a lot of ins and outs to that. We had family members all over the country. One was out of country. And so it took a while to get all that coordinated, to get all of that moving forward with the house and the this and the that, get all of our paperwork together. And by the time we got around to it, here we are. Well, I had to tell them the bad news that, look, there was a case, but you're past the statute of limitations. There is absolutely nothing I can do. There are no exceptions. There is going to be a void case if you try to pursue it. So very, very sorry. Please don't let this happen to you. And remember, it's not just about the lawsuit itself. It's also acting quickly just simply to gather evidence so you can move forward with the case quickly. Evidence goes away. It's not going to wait 2 years. It's not going to wait a year. Witnesses forget things. You might not be able to get video evidence that's very, very important to the case unless you move very quickly within a month or less. So there are a lot of things just simply in gathering the appropriate evidence to ensure you have the best case possible to seek justice for the death of your loved one beyond just the natural lawsuit filing within 2 years. So keep that in mind as well. You do not want to delay. Today we've covered 4 steps you must take to win your wrongful death lawsuit. And let's go back over those. Number 1, gather and protect every piece of evidence immediately before it disappears. Witnesses, video, all of those things. Make sure you're the right family member to file the claim. Who is the family member or family members that have the actual claim? 3, document the full value of your loved one's life. That is what a wrongful death case is about. The justice is seeking the full value of that person's life. And 4, move quickly. Don't miss your 2-year statute of limitation in the state of Georgia. Assume it's 2 years and move forward appropriately. Following these steps is going to make the difference in your case when you're facing something that is so difficult, which is the death and loss of a loved one. Remember, you don't have to do this alone. Lean on experienced wrongful death lawyers in Georgia that can help you with this process. If you found this video helpful, don't miss my next video. How does a PIP insurance or medical insurance claim impact your car accident lawsuit? It's a must-watch for anyone dealing with injury or insurance questions after a car accident. Knowing these steps could save you thousands of dollars or even keep you from your case being tossed out. See you over there.